We just witnessed a record-setting offensive opener for your UConn Huskies.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, baby. Labor Day Monday, and away we go. My name is Mike Mutnansky, UConn alumnus and the host here of Locked On UConn. We thank you for watching. We thank you for listening, and hopefully heading into this back half of 2025, football season underway, basketball season around the corner. We want you to make Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Available free wherever you get your podcast, and of course available for free on YouTube. All part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Offensive explosion for the Huskies on Saturday. The importance of one player in particular. Defensively, slow start. Yeah, some issues. Things to clean up. We'll get to that as well. And how about the home field advantage for UConn on Saturday? The impact on that going forward for this team. 638. Big number. Really big number. Total number of yards for UConn. Not just a season, not just a decade. How about a school record for the Huskies on Saturday? That was their offense in the 59-13 win over Central. Were they supposed to beat Central? Yes, they were. Were they supposed to beat Central by a lot? They sure were. 25.5, 26-point favorite, depending on where you were shopping on Saturday heading in to the Husky season opener. But I don't care about the final score. I don't care even about the total yards to some extent. It was the way that they did it. Explosive offensive plays. Scored from 12 out, 20 out, 73 yards out, 80 yards out. Two of those big touchdowns by the veteran wide receiver, Skyler Bell, who was an important part of what we saw Saturday for the UConn Huskies. And his story is important, not just on the field on Saturday, but going forward for this program. On the field, Saturday, Skyler Bell, 4 catches, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the first 2 scores for UConn, scored from 12, scored from 80 yards out. And actually, the best play he made was not a touchdown. We'll get to that coming up. But it was evident on the field what he meant to this team. Made life easier for Joe Fagnano, the quarterback, right? He made things easier for Gordon Samus, offensive coordinator. Get the ball to Skyler Bell and get out of the way. He's that type of offensive player. And I think when you look back at this run for Skyler Bell, sort of where he's gotten and how he's gotten here, it's important for himself and the program going forward. So Skyler Bell had a good year, transferred in, had a good year, entered the transfer portal last offseason. I think many people thought he was gone. Michigan in particular came calling, offered a bunch of money in the NIL reportedly. He ends up saying no, right? Big school comes calling. I thought he was gone. He stays. And on the field immediately, he's the best offensive player for UConn. He's the featured offensive player for UConn. Some other guys had great games. We'll get to them in a second. But being there in the stadium, being there to tailgate, being there in section 106, you saw an explosive offensive player that is going to be hard to match up with for opposing defenses. And again, big numbers, 2 touchdowns. The play that he made that is not on the score sheet because it wasn't a touchdown, that I thought was his best play, was a catch he made along the sideline. We're up in 106, and it's a deep ball over his right shoulder. He has to turn around and find the ball in the air, make the catch, and then NFL level, gets his feet down, gets out of bounds. I've been watching UConn football since I was going to games on campus. When they're playing games on campus, Randy Edsel is the coach, very early on in Dan Orlovsky's career. I've been watching UConn football for a long time. I can count on one hand how many times I saw a wide receiver for this program make that type of play. Skyler Bell is an explosive offensive player, part of what can be an explosive offense for this team. Just not been many players like that in the history of this program. Watching UConn over the years, what I've come to see from UConn is good defensive team, run the football, smart team, and that's how they've been at their best. This team was different a little bit last year and can be that way again this year. They scored over 400 points in 2024. Just based on what we saw on Saturday, what we expect going forward, they should be a similar type of offensive team, right? In college football right now, It's about teams that can score a lot of points and do so explosively. We saw Saturday with Skyler Bell at wide receiver. This can be that type of offense. And so he made things easier on the coordinator, on the quarterback. Going to be a tough matchup, and going forward has a chance to be not just the best player offensively in the field for UConn and Central, be the best player on the field when UConn plays some better opponents down the road, like Syracuse this week, Air Force down the road, Boston College. He's that talented, and the fact that he stays here, obviously, big impact on the team on the field. But how about the impact on the program, right? Goes into the portal, gets someone dangling big money there in Michigan, and stays here. That's huge for UConn, right? Other recruits see that. Other players see that. And they see that this kid had a chance to go elsewhere, stays with Jim Moore Jr., stays with the Husky program. That, to me, is a healthy long-term sign for the team itself and could lead other players to, maybe not, they try the transfer portal, stay. But how about recruits that see that and see immediately the offense and the coaching staff get him involved? Could have gone elsewhere. He didn't. He was a star on the field on Saturday. Mentioned Joe Fagnano, 18 of 25, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, only sacked once. Like, I view his role in this team as kind of a caretaker for the offensive talent around him. Don't make mistakes, make the right call in the read option, run when you have to. Like, there are some college programs that they're going to be relying on their quarterback to do everything. I don't feel that way with Fagnano. There's enough talent around him, or if he can distribute, I don't want to say game manager. I'm not trying to demean him that way, but there's a chance that he doesn't have to do it all for this team. That's a good thing for this program. I like what I saw out of Fagnano. Good job getting the ball to talented players like Cam Edwards, 6 for 115, 6 carries, 115 yards, almost 19 yards per carry, dominant against an overmatched Central team. Not a huge surprise. Mel Brown, 9 for 83, explosive out of the backfield. Rosa scored that touchdown late. You had some really strong offensive performances, and you had explosive offense. You had a team that was able to score from everywhere. They weren't having to get 10 and 12 and 15 play drives. That's important this year. I don't know this offense is going to be built to do that, but they can score in bunches. And that's going to be huge for this team because defensively, I think the offense is ahead of that side of the football. And they're going to have to carry for that side against some better offenses as we go forward. We saw some signs of that on Saturday against Central. But I think Gordon Samus, the offensive coordinator, he's got some weapons here. Terrence Smith, a guy who made an explosive play. Was called back on penalty. We'll get to that coming up in a couple of minutes. We saw Terrence Smith take one 80 yards to the house. This is not the UConn team that you're used to. If you're used to a defensive team, runs the football, I think you're going to be surprised by offensively how explosive this group can be. And you saw signs of it there on Saturday with Skyler Bell in particular, Cam Edwards, Mel Brown, Joe Fagnano. Like, again, they're supposed to win this game. They're supposed to win by a lot. But to put up the points the way they did, in the fashion they did, that to me bodes really well for this UConn football program, trying to build on last year's bowl win in Boston against North Carolina, trying to be a bowl team again this year. A lot of it is going to be about what they do offensively. They got Skyler Bell to stay. He stays explosive in game one. That bodes really well for this team. Again, forget the final score, forget the opponent. The way they did it is a sign that this team can be an explosive offense led by Skyler Bell in 2025. It was not all great for UConn. Some issues to talk about what they did to start the game, some defensive issues. We'll get to that. Stay with us here. It is Locked on UConn. All right, quick question for all you college football fans out there. You go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game. What hat would you wear? Yes, I asked you the question, what hat would you wear? For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. These are the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. Use the code LOCKEDON. You will get a vintage hat for $16.99. That easy. Head to thegamecaps.com. That is one word, thegamecaps, or one sentence, thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use that code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Speaking of college football, games everywhere. Games Thursday, games Friday, games Saturday, games Sunday, games on Monday. Could not be more excited. Tailgates, rivalries, the energy in the stands, nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can be feeling just like a battle. more than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at the checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. We have a lot going on. I do, you do. Honestly, fastest, cheapest, less stressful than anywhere else I've gotten tickets. That's why I use Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that promo code LOCKEDONCollege. $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go. Download Game Time today. All right, listen up. Locked On UConn listeners, new listeners, old listeners, appreciate you listening as we get going here for the football season. We have put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes that survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Very simple. lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Check it out right now. Help us out. Certainly, we appreciate it. 59-13, a dominant UConn win, offensive explosion, really good things on that offensive side of the ball. Was not all good. This was an important game for them, like starting the season. I was wondering what the rent would look like coming off that bowl win a year ago. Central, not the sexiest opponent, in-state opponent for sure in Connecticut, but not a big-time sexy opponent. So I sort of wondered how the crowd would be. Crowd was great to start. We'll talk more about that coming up, but the crowd was awesome. They're there early. Student section A+. The crowd was ready to go. The Huskies really weren't. 37,594 fans there ready. UConn wasn't. So here's how the game started for those who did not get a chance to watch closely what happened Saturday at the Rent. Start with the football. This is the UConn offense. They get a 15-yard penalty early thanks to an unsportsmanlike conduct. So it's a 3-yard gain to start, add 15 yards. All of a sudden, Huskies have 1st and 10 at their own 44, and you thought, okay, this is how we expected the game to start. Incomplete pass, 3-yard run, incomplete pass. Set up for a punt in their own end. Okay, let's punt the ball away, slow start offensively, play some defense, get the ball back, go score. The ball gets snapped on the punt attempt over Connor Stutz's head. It had to be 20 feet over his head, maybe 30 feet over his head. Again, we were sitting at 106. We had a great view of it coming back our way. That ball went flying over his head, gets chased down. Central retains possession, gets the football turnover on downs. Couple of plays later, they go in 7-0 Central. So right there, a slow start for the Huskies. They get the ball back. Kickoff return to UConn. Hold. Penalty there. Next play, UConn offense. False start. Play or two later, Terrence Smith, I mentioned him, gets the ball in the backfield as a receiver for UConn. Handoff inside, takes it 81 yards for a touchdown. Looked like elite athletic play. I want to see more of Terrence Smith going forward for this offense. That gets brought back, nullified on a holding. Eventually they would score, but opening game of the year, Jim Mora Jr. talked about a intense, really kind of draining training camp, ready to go, in-state opponent, chance to set the tone. They go incomplete, 3-yard gain, incomplete, botch punt, turnover on downs, penalty, nullified touchdown. You can start like that and still beat Central 59-13. You can't do that against good football teams, against Syracuse coming up this week, Saturday in New York, against Air Force, against Duke, against Boston College. That slow start, that can't happen going forward. If you're going to be a bowl team this year, if you're going to live up to the very lofty expectations, I was surprised how slowly UConn started. Give them some credit. You know, Jim Moore has talked about wanting to be a mentally tough team. So maybe we'll give them credit for the mental toughness they showed after that to go on and put up a big number against Central. But to start the game, crowd on its feet, beautiful day, opening day, setting a tone, didn't really do that. Gave the ball back to Central, they would score. So I would say the slow start was concerning for me. The second thing was concerning was the defense. And they don't give up a lot of points in this game. They weren't supposed to. You know, again, Central's not some offensive juggernaut. But there were some missed tackles early on in this game. A number 87 for Central looked like Gronk out there making plays, some arm tackles that UConn had going. They just couldn't make plays. Should have made some plays early on. Didn't see that. Thought they got pushed around a little bit. And that was my initial reaction watching the game live there in East Hartford. That was backed up by what Jim Mora Jr. said on Sunday when he came out and said disappointing. That was the word he used. Disappointing defensive performance and expected more. He made a comment basically like, hey, if Syracuse watches this game, they'll want to run the football right down our throats. I'll do the exact same thing. Pushed around and missed tackles defensively. And Matt Brock's defense, second-year coordinator, this is why the offensive performance on Saturday was so important. I think there's a chance that the UConn defense is slow to come along here. They have, 2 returning starters from last year, maybe 3. It's a newer group. They're learning the defense on the fly here with newer guys in there. I think you have some signs on Saturday that offensively they're ahead of the other side of the football and that they're going to have to score in the 30s in some games because defensively, 1 sack of Central's quarterback on Saturday afternoon, not much pressure, some missed tackles, allowed 5 of 16 on third down. It's not terrible. You get third down percentage there. But overall, defensively, not a lot of impact plays. What you saw was the UConn defense make the plays they had to, but it wasn't like they were imposing their will on Central. And that was a surprise to me, and I think it was a surprise to Jim Mora Jr. Again, he called that disappointing. And you talk about expectations with this team. My expectation is very simple. They're a bowl team this year. Like, that's the bar. Basic bar, that's the floor. You go back to a bowl game again for Jim Mora Jr.'s team. Winning a bowl game a year ago was nice. They're on a great run going back to last year. The way the schedule is set up, their offensive talent, my expectation is you're a bowl team again in 2025. How do you get there? Well, the offensive explosions we saw, scoring those touchdowns in week 1, but defensively, they're going to have to be better because I think as a unit, I didn't see a lot Saturday maybe think, okay, they're going to be the strength of the football team. The strength of the football team is going to be the offense. And defensively against Central, there were some issues. And so if you're going to live up to those expectations, you're going to be a bowl team. I've seen a lot of people say it's a 10-win team this year. I'm not quite sure about that. But I do think, and maybe I'm being crazy here, I think UConn could be 6-0 heading into that Boston College game in mid to late October, which will be a huge game for both teams. New England supremacy, 2 teams that are competing for a bowl battle again this year. Like I have that game circled. I'm sure many of you do as well as UConn fans. They can be 6-0, but defensively, they got to be better. They can't have these slower starts that you have. Like I just don't see any reason why. And Syracuse be a huge game coming up on Saturday. Like why couldn't they be 6-0 heading into that game? Why couldn't they be one of the teams people are talking about heading into mid-October? 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. They have that sort of offensive talent. They're a group that made a bowl game a year ago, won a bowl game a year ago, some experience to lean on there. They have a head coach that feels good about his team. Like that's my expectation is bowl game. And if things go your way, 6-0 into a huge game against Boston College. If they get to that point, if they're going to be a bowl team, if they're going to be a team that's 6-0 heading into BC, I think it's going to be about the offense. I think you saw some signs defensively that they have some maturing to do. They have some, let's say, growing up to do. That's not the phrase I'm looking for. But at least offensively, they're ahead of the curve. And that's not something I'm used to saying as a UConn fan, that offensively, they're ahead of the game on the defense side of the football. But the slow start, the poor tackling early, the way they got pushed around, those things got to be fixed because the expectation should be, if you're a UConn fan, you're going to games this year, you're watching on TV, you're watching Locked On UConn, listening to Locked On UConn, expectation is bowl game. If that's going to happen, we think the offense is going to put up points. Defensively, they got to be better than what we saw against Central because they're going to get a test here on Saturday against Syracuse. They have games down the schedule. They're going to be much more testing than what they saw on Saturday afternoon at the Ren. Some things are more to clean up. And I do think, from a coaching standpoint, maybe not the worst way to start, right? You score a bunch of points offensively. You didn't show a lot. You're able to use your skill players to get a big lead. And defensively, on that side of the ball, you can point and say, guys, we got to make more plays. We have to be able to get after the quarterback. We can't miss as many tackles. So in a way for the coach, maybe one of those wins that you can also, sure, it's a win, helps the record, great start, great atmosphere. Rent was rocking there on Saturday afternoon. You can also say, hey, guys, we have things to work on. They can show the tape, and Jim Mora Jr. can say, hey, guys, we can't start like this against better teams. So almost a win-win in the way that it played out here for the UConn Huskies. Speaking of the rent, the crowd was phenomenal Saturday afternoon. I want to talk about that and the impact. Look ahead to Syracuse. Look ahead to what you can expect from this podcast. It is Locked on UConn. Stay with us. All right, guys, you probably heard of Viagra, Cialis, maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Want to do what I do? You're buying new things, checking out new things, go to the reviews. Real customer reviews on the website, helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use that code LockedOnCollege and get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege, and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compound drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or a manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety details. Locked on UConn, 59-13, your final Huskies roll week 1 against Central. And I was lucky to be there. Beautiful Saturday afternoon. The kids aren't quite into flag football season yet. No fall sports yet. So it was a great opportunity to go watch UConn Saturday there at the Rent. Got there early, got into the pickle lot, that first blue lot there on the left. Great tailgating, great atmosphere. Crowd was into it early. And then, I guess I wasn't quite sure what to expect. It's early on in the year. It's still not Labor Day. It's Central. So it's not a sexy opponent. Sorry, Central, not a sexy opponent. So what was the crowd going to be like? We walked into our seats probably a minute or two late. I think we missed the first play. I'll blame myself. And the student section there, jam-packed. Was told, talking to the fans around us, student section packed 45 minutes prior to the game. That student section was jammed out. 37,000 plus at the Rent on Saturday. Student section loud early. If you're watching and listening, UConn student that was there should be very impressed with yourselves. You guys were tremendous. Trust me, I've been in some games there at that stadium over the years where the student section was empty and they weren't loud. That was not the case on Saturday. Tremendous job by the students that were there. You were loud early on. You were loud during the game. Did you leave a little bit early because the game was a blowout? You did. But you probably subscribe to what I do. The Ale theory. Always leave early. Beat the traffic when you can at a sporting event. UConn fans did that. No big surprise. UConn fans arrive late because they want to tailgate late. They leave early when the game's a blowout. That's okay. During the game, fans were phenomenal. Student section phenomenal. And I bring that up because it's important for an independent team like UConn. Like when you're in a conference, Big 12, ACC, whatever, well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of UConn conference rumors this year. You have a benefit, right? You have rivalries that draw in fans, and you have this guaranteed TV deal where every single game you'll find your way onto some network. Networks have these TV contracts that get you in front of all sorts of eyeballs. Independent teams don't always get that. There'll be games on ESPN, ESPN Plus, CBS Sports Network, but you don't have that conference tie-in. So it's important when you do. And when recruits go there, when players are there at the stadium in East Hartford, that it's a crazy, crazy atmosphere, something they can look on and say is a positive. Because you don't have that conference tie-in, all the guarantees. You had that on Saturday. It's so huge for recruits, so huge for current players, the morale of the team, and the morale of the program. Like, if you're a UConn football fan, just know this. Nobody outside the UConn football program or its fandom is rooting for you. Because the basketball program is so good and so dominant. Nobody out there is like, oh, I hope their football team's good too. No shot. They want you to stink. That's the reality. And so when you get a stadium like that and you have an atmosphere like that against Central, against whomever, it's such a huge plus for the program. And I thought Saturday, just soaking it all in beginning to end, as a program that's building towards something bigger, I think we all, if following this program, think there's something bigger down the road for this team. I was a huge first sign. Out of the gate, crowd was great. Students were great. And that's important. As a team with no conference, That's a bigger deal than usual, I would say, than for most college football teams. And you had that Saturday at the Rent. Tremendous crowd sitting there in section 106. Really impressed by the UConn fandom that was there. Next up on the schedule, Syracuse. You're a UConn fan like me, you don't like Syracuse. So you don't mind that Syracuse lost their opener 45-26 to Tennessee on Saturday. Gave up a ton of yards, 7.3 yards per play. Not a good number for them. 6 different runs of double-digit yards with 3 different runners for that Tennessee offense. 0 quarterback hits for the Syracuse defense on Saturday. They didn't play well. They were a year ago 96th in points allowed, 110th in yards per game. They showed more of that again on Saturday. I think they're going to be big favorites. At least the early look-ahead line that I saw had Syracuse close to 10-point favorites, I believe, in this game on Saturday. We'll double-check that. We'll keep an eye on that line as the week goes on. There's no reason why UConn can't go in there and beat Syracuse. Big offensive day. Defensively make some plays. Like, I don't – it's a tough game. It's a marquee game. I can't wait for noon on Saturday, upstate New York. I will not be making the trip. Hopefully some of you folks will be. But I'll be locked and loaded for UConn and Syracuse. 1-0 Huskies, 0-1 Syracuse team. And they'll be feeling it. They'll have a tough week this week, having been run up 45 points by the Tennessee Vols. We'll preview UConn and Syracuse later on in the week. As far as this show goes, like if you're a newer viewer or listener to this podcast, then it's not a surprise to you. If you listen to the former version of this podcast with a different host who's now on other things, wish him well. I'm a new host here. I'll give you a quick background. I went to UConn. I followed UConn since the late 90s growing up in Massachusetts. Didn't have like a big college team I loved. Boston College, whatever. Was never a big UMass guy. My brother was. But I was lucky to go on a visit to UConn the year before I enrolled at UConn. Went to a game at Gampel against the Orangemen, and that was it. Like I think I speak for a lot of people. You see one UConn game at Gampel, and that's all you need. The following year as a freshman was one of the crazy people that would wait out for a couple days. In the case of the Michigan State game in 1998, slept outside for like a week in a yellow tent with blankets to be front and center, to yell at Tom Izzo, to yell at Mateen Cleaves, to scream as loud as I could, things I probably shouldn't have been yelling at that time. Like once I got to UConn, I was hooked. I've been going to UConn games since the games were on campus. The football games were. I've been sitting front row when it was first come, first serve for the student section. Like I am very, very, very lucky to be sitting here after 15, 20 years doing Boston radio and be able to do this show because the fan base, UConn fan base in general, basketball, football, sports, you deserve a high level show. It is the basketball capital of the world. I'm not even going to reference any other programs that they're close to because UConn is one of a kind. It is the basketball capital of the world. The football program is up and coming and building towards something bigger. You guys deserve a daily podcast talking about your team. That's my goal. Daily, every day, football and basketball to start. Once basketball season starts, basketball will take a focus there. What does that mean for football? Bonus episodes. We'll still do football every week, 1 or 2 episodes. There'll be bonus episodes. Monday through Friday daily, both audio and video, bonus episodes, live post-game shows, interactive with you guys. And really the whole goal is this. I want the show to be where you come first for all UConn news. I want the show to be so good that you tell friends, other UConn alums, subscribe, check it out. Locked On Podcast, YouTube, Locked On UConn, audio podcast. That's my goal every day, to give you guys, the UConn fan base, the best podcast you deserve. That's what I'm going to be doing here. Daily, bonus shows, live shows, football and basketball. Cannot wait. You have ideas, you have suggestions, leave it in the comments on YouTube. LockedOnUcon@gmail.com is the email address, LockedOnUcon@gmail.com. Every single day, kicking it off this Labor Day, celebrating a UConn win over Central and getting set for UConn and Syracuse on Saturday. Tuesday's show, let's talk men's basketball, their offseason expectations. The target's on their back, folks. Once again, the target is on the back for UConn basketball, how the offseason went, and what it looks like heading into the season. Subscribe, rate, and review on YouTube, audio podcast, on socials everywhere. Locked On UConn. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. We are back on Tuesday. Talk to you.
Go Huskies.